Hello everybody, my name is Jameson Chase Young. This is Coins and History. Today we're talking about gold versus silver. Which one is better? Or I should say, which one is better for you? Because, I don't really know if there is one that's better than the other. They each have their good things and their bad things. And so, yeah, I think it's more of a question of which one is better for you. Which one do you like better? So I guess you could say it's gold versus the poor man's gold. And I guess one of the reasons why they call it the poor man's gold is because, poor people like myself can afford it more easily. I can afford not all at once, but over time I can afford to acquire, a whole little mini treasure chest full of silver. But gold is a totally different thing. It's especially at give or take $4,500 to $5,000 an ounce, $5,500 earlier this year. It's kind of hard for your average person to go down and to pick up an ounce of gold, but with silver you can pick up dozens of ounces, hundreds over time, and thousands over time if you're dedicated for a lot of years. But before I show you these charts as far as like which one's better to invest in, they both on average go up, but they do go up differently. Silver is kind of like a penny stock. It's very volatile. It goes up a little bit, but then it spikes up like in 1980, and then it settles back down and creates a new, average that's higher than its original average, but still low. And then it, trickles up a little bit, and then it spikes up again like in 2011, and then it settles back down, and then it goes up a little bit, and then it spikes up like crazy like it has been doing in the last 6 months. And where gold, it's like very consistent. Like it like gradually just kind of goes up little by little. And sure, sometimes it has its, spikes. Sometimes it has its little mini crashes, but it's very consistent. So they both go up on average the same, but they go up differently. Gold's 10-year high was just a couple months ago. Gold's all-time high was just a couple months ago at 5,500. And then its 10-year low was 1,125. That's an average increase of 260, and it's a increase from its low to its high anywhere from around 370 to 400% from its low to its high. So, if you're lucky enough to buy at its low and sell at its high, you could have made 400%. But, if you just kind of bought any time in around the 2016-17 time period or just accumulated a little bit every month and then sold in last January when it hit its all-time high, well, you'd have an average increase of around 260%. Silver's 10-year high was last January also 121.62. Its all-time low, 10-year low, is $12.12. That's an average increase of 571.5%. It's a low to high increase of around 900%. Now, I do have to say one thing about silver. There's always been something a little bit like one thing about gold, as much as I love it, it is true. It is kind of a worthless metal. It's very soft, and there's not a whole lot of use, at least not compared to silver. There's not a whole lot of use for it, like industrialized use for it. I do know that they, small little bits in like computers and stuff, but nothing like silver. And on top of that, silver, its use is expected to really expand. They need silver in like electric cars and solar panels. So it already has more of a use than gold, and it's supposed to be expanding its use, in years to come with all this new technology like electric cars and solar panels. So, and the weird thing is, not historically there was always like a 12-to-1 ratio, but currently the ratio goes anywhere from 80 to 50 to 1. Like sometimes gold is 50, sometimes it's 80 to 1. For every 1 ounce of gold, you can get 50 ounces. And then if it goes below 50 ounces, then they say that silver's overpriced. If it goes above 80 ounces, then they say that it's the gold that's overpriced. And the weird thing about this is gold is only 19 times more rare. Like this is what geologists think, around 19 times more rare than silver. And on top of that, it's not used and needed in as much stuff like as much stuff as like the electric cars and the solar panels and it's, 70, 80 times more valuable. What I'm getting at with this is, I would say in the future, I think that silver is going to go up a lot more. And I'm not saying gold's not, But I think that you'll see that even out a little bit. Like, like for the last several decades, it's always been anywhere from 50 to 1 to 80 to 1. It won't surprise me in like, years to come. It's more like it goes down to a more realistic, like, 30 to 1 or 20 to 1. Either way, gold, silver, either one, they all go up, and they all go up kind of on average the same. But, one thing that I like about silver, it is kind of nice to like be able to super stack, have an entire huge, treasure chest or a whole pile full of Morgan silver dollars or peace silver dollars. That does make you feel pretty special. But as you can see with this, Liberty Head Double Eagle and Golden Buffalo and St Gaudens, it also makes you feel pretty special, hold them gold coins. These are really special coins. And one thing good about gold is like these three, they're very compact, so to speak. These three coins right here are basically just as expensive as this entire stack of Morgan silver dollars. So it's like, if you want something that you can just easily toss into a safety deposit box or easily hide, gold is the way to go. So, and it doesn't take up nearly as much space, but it's like I said, it's also pretty nice to to have that big mountain stack of silver. As you can see, the American St. Gaudens, it's, one of the most pretty coins in all of American history. And there's a reason why they brought it back in terms of that front. They brought the front back for the American Golden Eagle that, which is one of the most popular gold bullion coins made. I actually, though, like the back better than I do the front, but they're both really nice. And, the St. Gaudens, it was a $20 piece back in the 1920s and 1900s, teens, 20s, and super early 30s when it was, came out. The coin, it contains a 0.9675 troy ounces of pure gold. That's in a 90% gold, 10% copper. And its gold content is 0.9675 troy ounces. Its total weight is 33.436 grams. Its diameter is 34.1 millimeters, and its thickness is 2.41 millimeters. Its edge is kind of cool. It's lettered. If you look at the edge of the St. Gaudens, it has, writing on the side. And, they minted these from 1907 to 1933. It's teamed up. I put it teamed up by the peace dollar in case you like silver more than gold. The peace silver dollar is one of my favorite silver dollars. They were minted from 1921 to 1928, and then again in 1934 and 1935. Their composition is 90% silver, 10% copper. Its silver net weight is 0.77344 troy ounces of silver, and its total weight is 26.73 grams. Its diameter is 38.1 millimeters with a thickness of 2.4 millimeters, and its edge is reeded. Both unique in their own way. My own personal opinion, I like those St. Gaudens. If you're going to invest in constitutional coins or pre-1933 gold, I think you almost got to go with the St. Gaudens. Now, if you're going to invest in a pre-1933 coin that isn't a St. Gaudens, I guess the other givens is everybody wants Wild West coins, and the Liberty Head Double Eagle, it's about as Wild West as you can get. And 1882 is about the most Wild West year you can get. But yeah, it was the $20 gold coin of its times, and they're very highly collectible. They come in 3 different versions, and as far as their gold weight, it's 0.9675. That's how much gold they have in them. They too have a composition of 90% gold, 10% copper, and a total weight of 33.436 grams. Their diameter is 34 millimeters. Their edge is reeded. Other than the St. Gaudens, they would be my second choice. I'll never like a coin more than I like the Morgan silver dollar. I think it's just at this point I can say it's impossible. The Morgan silver dollars are my favorite coins ever. They minted them from 1878 to 1904 and again in 1921. Obviously, their designer was George T. Morgan. Their composition is 90% silver, 10% copper, and their silver content is 0.77344 troy ounces. They weigh 26.73 grams, and their diameter is 38.1 millimeters with a thickness of 2.4 millimeters, and their edge is reeded. You know, they're, I believe, my all-time favorite. You know, I don't know if I'd pick gold over them, but you got to go with the Morgan silver dollars because they're very amazing coins. And if you don't want to invest in pre-1933 constitutional silver, you know, I think your two best bets are either the American Gold Eagle, which looks a lot like, you know, the St Gaudens, the front does anyway. Either that or the Golden Buffalo. The Gold Buffalo is, depending on what source you're looking at the internet, the Gold Buffalo is either the number one or number two most popular collected gold bullion in the United States. But I definitely like the looks of it. You know, it's obviously designed after those 1920s, 1930s nickels. And yeah, they look really good they make really good gold coins. I think they make better gold coins than they did nickels back in the day. And you know, you got to be really careful with these because like the gold buffaloes are pure gold. And gold's a very soft metal. And the American Gold Buffalo was actually the first 24 karat 0.999 fine gold that the gold coin ever issued by the United States Mint. And it was introduced in June 2006 to compete with the international 24 karat gold options out there. Its weight is 1 troy ounce. Its diameter is 32.7 millimeters with a thickness of 2.95 millimeters. Its face value is 50. Its edge is reeded, and its mint is the West Point Mint. The American Gold Buffalo is, I believe, the best bullion, right there with the American Golden Eagle. Now, the Canadian Maple Leaf, you know, I don't know if it wins my vote for like best overall front and back. It comes really close for the best back design. Those, you know, maple leaves on the back, the way they sparkle. The Canadian Maple Leaf is a great option for silver bullion. They're great coins. They're great looking coins. And although they're not United States American coins, you know, they are Canada. So they're one of the most heavily recognized coins on earth. They're pure silver, 0.99 fine silver. They're 1 troy ounce of silver. Their diameter is 38 millimeters. They have a thickness of 3.15 to 3.29 millimeters. I've seen that before. I don't know which one it is, but every source says its thickness varies. But regardless, you know, the Royal Canadian Mint is great. And, you know, the new ones obviously have King Charles on the front ever since the Queen passed away. You know, I can't really say which is best because I don't think there is a best between gold and silver. It's whatever's best for you. You know, if you like something small and more compact, obviously gold's the way to go. It's, you know, it's easier to store, easier to hide. But, you know, if you don't mind the bigger volume of silver, that's also a great way to go. On average, you know, looking at the charts, if you buy silver now, buy gold and silver now, sell in 10 years or 20 years, you're going to come ahead either way. Like I said, there is a magical feeling, you know, holding some gold in your hands, but at the same time, there's also a magical feeling holding an entire pile or a treasure chest of silver. So whichever one gets you off more, I guess is what the best way to say it. You know, I hope these videos are helpful in any way, shape, or form, and I hope you enjoy watching these videos. And you know, if you do, please hit the like button and the subscribe button. My name's Jameson Chase Young. This is Coins and History. Thank you for watching.